It's my happy privilege to greet you in the wonderful name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And I trust that all of you are well. A warm welcome also to those that will be listening to us later on YouTube. We know you will be blessed. Now it is, I'm going to call upon Brother Kel to read for me this long chapter of 58 verses.
Okay, this morning I'm reading 1 Samuel chapter 17. Now the Philistines gathered together their armies to battle, and were gathered together at Soka, which belongs to Judah, and encamped between Soka and Ezekah in Ephes-Dammim. And Saul and the men of Israel were gathered together and encamped by the valley of Elah, and set the battle in array against the Philistines. And the Philistines stood on a mountain on the one side, and Israel stood on a mountain on the other side, and there was a valley between them. And there went a champion out of the camp of the Philistines named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. And he had a helmet of bronze upon his head, and he was armed with a coat of mail, and the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of bronze. And he had armor of bronze upon his legs, and a javelin of bronze upon his shoulders. And the staff of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and his spear's head weighed 600 shekels of iron. And one bearing a shield went before him. And he stood and cried out unto the armies of Israel, and he said unto them, Where are you who come out to set your battle in array? Am I not a Philistine, and you servants of Saul? Choose you a man for you, and let him come down to me. If he is able to fight with me and to kill me, then we will be your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then you shall be our servants and serve us. And the first Philistine said, I defy the armies of Israel this day. Give me a man that we may fight together. When Saul and all Israel heard these words of the Philistine, they were dismayed and greatly afraid. Now David was the son of the Ephratite of Bethlehem, Judah, whose name was Jesse, and he had 8 sons. And the man went among men, and an old man in the days of Saul. And the 3 eldest sons of Jesse went and followed Saul to the battle. And the names of these 3 sons that went to the battle were Eliab, the firstborn, and next unto him Abinadab, and the third Shammah. And David was the youngest, and the 3 eldest followed Saul. But David went and returned from Saul to feed his father's sheep at Bethlehem. And the Philistine drew near morning and evening, and presented himself 40 days. And Jesse said unto David his son, Take now for your brethren of Ephah of this parched grain, and these 10 loaves, and run to the camp to your brethren. And carry these 10 sheaves unto the captain of their household of the thousands, and look how your brethren fare, and bring back a token. Now Saul and they and all the men of Israel were in the valley of Elah, fighting with the Philistines. And David rose up early in the morning, and left the sheep with the keeper, and took and went as Jesse had commanded him. And he came to the camp as the host was going forth to fight, and shouted for the battle. For Israel and the Philistines had put the battle in array, army against army. And David left his things in the hand of the keeper of the supplies, and ran into the army, and came to greet his brothers. And as he talked with them, behold, there came up the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, out of the armies of the Philistines, and spoke according to the same words, and David heard them. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him, and were greatly afraid. And the men of Israel said, Have you seen this man that has come up? Surely to defy Israel has he come up. And it shall be that the man who kills him, the king will enrich him with great riches, and will give him his daughter, and make his father's house free in Israel. And David spoke to the men that stood by, saying, What shall be done to the man that kills this Philistine, and takes away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defy the armies of the living God? And the people answered him after this manner, saying, So shall it be done to the man that kills him. And Eliab, his eldest brother, heard when he had spoken unto the men. And Eliab's anger was kindled against David, and said, Why came you down here? And with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your pride and the insolence of your heart, for you are come down that you might see the battle. And David said, What have I done? Is it not a word? And he turned from him towards another, and spoke after the same manner. And the people answered him again after the former manner. And when the words were heard which David spoke, they repeated them before Saul, and said to him. And David said to Saul, Let no man's heart fail because of him. Your servant will go and fight with this Philistine. And Saul said to David, You are not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for you are but a youth, and he a man of war from his youth. And David said to Saul, Your servant kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear, and took a lamb out of the flock. And I went out after him, and I struck him, and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he had arose against me, I caught him by his beard, and struck him, and slew him. Your servant slew both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he has defiled the armies of the living God. David said, Moreover, the Lord that delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the paw of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said unto David, Go, and the Lord be with you. And Saul armed David with his armor, and he put a helmet of bronze upon his head. Also he armed him with a coat of mail. And David girded his sword upon his armor, and he attempted to go, for he had not tried it. And David said unto Saul, I cannot go with these, for I have not tried them. And David put them off, and he took his staff in his hand, and chose him 5 smooth stones out of the brook, and put them in a shepherd's bag which he had, even in a pouch, and his sling was in his hand. And he drew to the Philistine. And the Philistine came on and drew near unto David. And the man that bore the shield went before him. And when the Philistine looked about and saw David, he despised him, for he was but a youth, and ruddy, and of a fair countenance. And the Philistine said unto David, Am I a dog that you come to me with sticks? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. And the Philistine said unto David, Come to me, and I will give your flesh unto the fowls of the air, and to the beasts of the field. Then said David to the Philistine, You come to me with a sword, and with a spear, and with a shield, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day will the Lord deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you and take your head from you, and I will give you the carcass, and I will give the carcasses of the host of the Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air, and to the wild beasts of the earth, and all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. And all this assembly shall know that the Lord saves not with sword and with spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. And it came to pass, when the Philistine arose and drew near meet David. Then David hurried and ran towards the army to meet the Philistine. And David put his hand in his bag and took a stone and slung it and struck the Philistine in his forehead. The stone sunk into his forehead and he fell upon his face to the earth. So David prevailed over the Philistine with his sling and with his stones, and he struck the Philistine and slew him, and there was no sword in the hands of David.
Thanks, Brother Carol. Stop. Thanks. Appreciate your help. The lungs are still strong. This is a story, an incident, part of history that we learn about in Sunday school. David, the story of David and Goliath. When we think of what Brother Cal has read, we find that eventually David is presented to Saul. After all the discouragements of his brother and things like that, David is eventually presented to Saul, and this young lad, this young boy, this minor, teenager, bravely undertakes to fight this Philistine. Let no man's heart fail because of him, David said. When we go back to the text, here is a young shepherd boy who came only this morning from taking care of his father's sheep. And as we remind ourselves of his words and we look at the story, we see how that this boy, this teenager, has more courage than all the fighting men of Israel. This should be a great encouragement to the young boys and girls of the church. My dear brothers and sisters, God very often does the same in His church. He uses those that the Bible calls, that people consider the weak and the foolish, to come to us, encourage our faith, strengthen us in our hope, or simply rebuke us for the wrong that we may have done. So, that is the setting. But there's one other important thing here. There was a gift, a prize, not prize, a gift. Whoever can kill this giant, this is what Saul said, I will give him. But when you look at the story, you'll find that David had just one ambition. Not for the riches, not for Saul's daughter, but his ambition was for the glory of God. Brothers and sisters, boys and girls, in all your undertaking, do it as if you're doing it for God. Let me change it a little bit. do it as unto the Lord. And your endeavors, your efforts will succeed. Many times, unlike David, we're still in the introduction, unlike David, it's what will I get out of this? So now, to get back to our text, the first thing I want to bring to your notice is David is scorned by his brothers. When David goes to the king and says, let me fight the Philistine, or before that, when he goes there and he inquires, what's going on here? And the men tell him, look, this is the story. This is what's happening here. And David purposes that he's going to fight Goliath, right? So, when his brothers hear, when his elder brother hears this, he says, he gets angry. And he said, why did you come here? But remember our point, David is scorned by his brothers. Eliab is angry. And he said, why did you come here? With whom you left those few sheep in the wilderness. I know your presumption and evilness of heart. Wow, Eliab was a prophet, a discerner. He had the gift of knowledge. He sees into the heart of this man and he says, I know why you came here. You came here because of the evilness of your heart. For you came down that you might see the battle. Quite an accusation. But my dear brothers and sisters, boys and girls, how often a person's motive is misunderstood and he or she is criticized for their good intention. This is done very often by those who should know the person better than others. Understand him more. Those who know him better understand him more. The result is, instead of being encouraged, the person is demoralized. Some months back, Kyle visited us. He had to bring something over. And I said to him, son, God has given you excellent gifts. And I don't think I said him that, I'll say it now. Your demeanor is very good. Use the gifts and the talents that God has given you to be an encouragement to others. He remembers that. All of you, well, not in application, all of you have a gift or a talent. Why not use it to be an encouragement than one who criticizes and demoralizes? If sin is involved, call it what it is. It's sin. And the person needs to be rebuked. But let's be an encouragement to others. So, the second thing we find here, that Saul too objects. to this seemingly foolhardy undertaking. But Saul has a good reason. He said to David, "You are not able to go to fight against this Philistine. You are only a minor. You are only a teenager. And he has been a warrior from his youth." So Saul gives the reason. "Young man," right, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, "I admire your courage. I applaud your boldness. But you are not coached in warfare yet." Saul, no doubt, admires David's courage. But he says, the reality is, you are no match for this giant. To engage in him is to throw away your life, which may be better saved or reserved for better things. You are but a youth, rash and inconsiderate, weak and unversed in arms. He is a man that has the head and hands of a man. A man of war, and trained up and hardened to it from his youth. Verse 33. How can you expect to conquer him? He will be too hard for you. Third point, David answers. He answers Saul's fear with faith. He gives a reason for the hope which was in him that said to him he could conquer this Philistine. He argues from his experience. Though he was but a youth and not experienced in warfare, yet perhaps he had done as much as the killing of Goliath came to. How come? For he had, by divine assistance, courage enough to encounter and strength enough to subdue a lion once, and at another time a bear which came to rob him of his lands, verse 34 to 36. Remember I spoke about milestones in our life? Right. Milestones of experience he had in his life. Yes, he was not a soldier. Experience he had with God, that God is faithful and God will give him the strength that he needs, because God gave him that strength some time ago that helped him defeat a lion and a bear. To these he compares this uncircumcised Philistine. Looks upon him as a ravenous beast, as either of them as the lion or the bear, and doubts not but to deal easily with him And hereby he gives Saul to understand that he was not so inexperienced in dangerous combats as he took him to be. So, I may not be a soldier, but I have had an experience with God. And in my dealings with God, I have found him always to be faithful. And with his strength, I have conquered, and I shall conquer again. Young man, young lady, what an attitude to have. What an attitude of faith to encourage, not in application yet, your friends, your parents in the time of need. And then number 4, David applies his story like a man of faith will do, verse 37. He says, it was the Lord that delivered him from the lion and the bear. It was the Lord. To him he gives the praise of that great achievement. And by that he infers, he will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine. We paraphrase that. The lion and the bear were enemies only to me and my sheep. And it was in defense of my own interest, my own property, that I attacked them. But this Philistine is an enemy of God and Israel. He defies the armies of the living God, and it is for their honor that I will attack him. Here is the voice of faith. You and I need that most times, no matter how young or old that voice of faith is. Mark, you were not here when we had lunch together. I gave a little word, of our experience. And one of the phrases I used, Mark, I think it applies to all the family that we're involved in this matter regarding John. I said, we, in those 7 months, were like dead men walking. Remember I said that? Yes. Only the other day, and in that time, my wife would say to John and I, have faith, have faith, have faith. Right? And Shiloh would tell to his father, Dad, have faith. Have faith. Only the other day, my wife said to me, I think 2 days ago, she says, dear, those days, I didn't feel like cooking. I didn't feel like eating. I just felt like doing nothing. And that was exactly my experience, and I suppose others too. Others as well. You know that experience. Some of us going through that even now. God will take care of you. God will take care of us. What I'm saying, here's the voice of a 14-year-old saying to his dad, Dad, have faith. God will take care of us. So, okay, those are the things, it's just animals involved. If it is a matter of business, just my interest, my family's interest, sheep. But here, the name of God is involved. And I know God will give me the victory. So, my dear brothers and sisters, with those 4 brief points, we want to look at a few things that we can make application to. Your experiences, the things you have gone through already, should be what I mentioned last week, milestones, to remind you that God who helped me previously will help me again. Your experience ought to be improved on by you as encouragements to trust in God and venture, go forth in the way of duty. God's business and your business. And somebody has said, make God's business your business and God will take care of your business. And I believe that's so true. Remind yourself, the Lord has delivered, He will deliver again. For a second thing, remind yourself that how God's providential care, God in His providence takes care of the birds, the common animals around you. Remind yourself of how He has said that He takes care of them. And then you'll be encouraged to depend on that special providence of God that surrounds His church. I pray, if you listen to my prayer, you are the apple of God's eye. He that sets bounds to the waves of the sea and says to them, thus far and no more. And He that can control the rage of wild beasts can and will restrain the wrath of wicked men. This morning in my prayer I said, Lord, your church, the children, your children, meet with so much adversity and business and employment and other spheres and other businesses of life, Lord. And some of them are saying, how long, Lord, is this going to go on? Just as the psalmist did. And I prayed something that I don't pray very often, scarcely pray. Lord, won't you deal with them now? Thirdly and lastly, always carry this in your heart. Let it be on your lips. I mentioned it last week, I'm repeating it. maybe it's something that ought to be repeated every day, and if we're preaching every week. Remind yourself always. Remind yourself that without Christ, you can do nothing. But with Him, you can do anything. John 15:5. So, my dear brothers and sisters, one conclusion: don't make Goliaths when there is no Goliath. Don't. Don't invite demons when there's no demons attacking you. They're around us. They want to. The word of the Lord is resist them. Resist him, resist them. But don't. When these little Goliaths come, these little demons come, and you can see that this is not of God, then you slay them by faith and trust in God. Let's pray.